Hey, 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 Fit Mama. Jen Oliver here, your host of the Fit Mama podcast. This is the work in to your workout. Fit Mama, hello. Today I am coming to you with the topic of food. It is currently Thanksgiving week in Canada, and next month it is Thanksgiving in the States, and we sort of call this season leading into Christmas and including Christmas and often New Year's, the season of food. And it's one of those times where I get the most questions asked about how to maintain weight over the holidays, what to eat to feel good, how to balance things out, how do I not gain weight over the holidays, which is a huge concern for so many people when it's been a pattern in the past. I get asked a lot about cheat meals. I get asked a lot about what I eat. And I'm going to share all of that today with you because as we enter this quote unquote season of food, it's really an interesting thought that we're going to gain weight. And it's sort of almost something that we can set ourselves up for. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, which we don't want it to be. We don't actually want to end up gaining weight, especially because that doesn't feel good. And we know what I talk about especially is not about how you look when you look in the mirror, because that's a process to accept the way things are and to be able to change things on a day-to-day that doesn't take you into an extreme place. Because we know from the science that extremes and quote unquote diets don't work, right? If you're restricting something long-term, the studies, the evidence shows you're going to gain it back and then some. And that is often what happens to most people. And they get so frustrated and then it happens over and over. And it's this cycle of eating and then restricting and then feeling like all you want is that restricted thing. And it's such an interesting time of year as we enter this fall season where it's pumpkin spice, this and that, pumpkins everywhere, and they all sound good mixed with icing and sugar and all the rest, which, yes, I understand these things are less readily available other times of the year. But what they do is they sort of provide this, oh, well, I don't have it any other time of year, so let me binge on it right now, right? So in the Fit Mama group, I always share great yummy recipes of pumpkin scones, pumpkin muffins, pumpkin pancakes, because those are three of my favorite things that have pumpkin in them. And there are so many alternative versions of your favorite pumpkin goodies that are filled with health-enhancing nutrients, because a lot of what's made commercially, whether it's at Starbucks or McDonald's or any fast food place, or really any commercially baked place where something you're getting out of a package or that's been baked in a commercial kitchen is likely to have things in it that you may not feel agree with your body. And that's just a simple fact. It's about how do you feel when you consume these things, and especially when you consume these things in abundance. How do you feel? That's one of the things I'm always talking about at Fit Mama, as you know, is this concept of listening to your body. Listening, actually hearing what it's saying. Now, this seems like it should be easy, right? It's like, oh yeah, I listen to my body. You know, if I'm sick, I lie in bed. If I don't feel well, I do this. Well, but do you? Do you really? Do you really listen to it when you've had something that maybe you do think tastes really good and you've indulged in it and you've given yourself the green light and you've said, yes, I'm going to have this pie or this cake or this whatever it is that I love? Do you really listen after the first few bites when your body says, yeah, I've had enough now, I've gotten my fill? Or do you then switch to another food? Or do you then distract yourself with a drink or some other activity to get outside your body and not tune in to the conversation that it's having. This is what I really want you to consider when it comes to food, and especially when it comes to this season of food. Oftentimes, if you read articles or blogs or hear about people who are giving you advice around the holidays that, don't hang out around the food table at the party. That's one thing, so you won't be standing there eating the whole night. But also go to the party after you've eaten a little already. This is a common recommendation. And while this seems like a great idea because then you don't go starving, I really feel like we're never starving anymore, right? Like, who is ever starving themselves? Like, we rarely do this. And, I love the feeling of actually being hungry by the time I get to enjoy some food. And I don't starve myself by any means, but I allow a significant amount of time to pass between the times that I'm eating so that I can feel hungry. And this is one of the principles I wanted to bring up today in today's podcast is if you are not letting yourself get hungry, you are missing out on something big and exciting and something that your body is wanting to communicate with you. Something you want to listen to hear, to respect, and to honor. So many diet books out there, I would say maybe as far as all of them, really go into eat this, eat that, do not eat that, don't do this. And they kind of give you those brief guidelines. And then they say, but don't worry, you're never going to be hungry on this diet. Like being hungry is the end of the earth for you, right? And I understand when you're wanting to lose weight, you don't want to feel deprived, right? You don't want to feel like you're craving food all the time. You don't want to feel like you're constantly thinking about food. But that's the fact. When you diet, when you restrict yourself, and when you limit yourself and say, no, I can't have this. Oh, I can only have this at these times. All your brain does is actually obsess over those very things you can't have or that you've told yourself you quote unquote can't have. And so you become consumed by it. And they did a study recently that I loved. Actually, I don't even know if it was recently, but I read it recently. And I loved it because it really pointed to this. It was a group of men, first of all, so not a chronically dieting population of women. I was just reading a statistic that 61 diets are what a woman by the age of 45 years old has tried. 61 diets. Okay, that's huge. And so what I found in this study that I was reading, which is an aside because it was men, so it's not the chronic dieting population of women, it's men who really just rarely diet, right? These men had reported not dieting, they had reported a good body image, they had reported being healthy and feeling good. And they were put on a diet, a restrictive diet. So they were limited calories, and they were changing their food intake to some degree, whatever it was. I don't remember the exact details. Within the first few days, the men reported being more obsessed with food. Within the first few days, the men reported creating files on their phones or on their computers with recipes of things that they could eat. They started to compile ideas of meals and plans. They started to become obsessed with when they would eat again, what they would eat in their next meal. And these were non-dieting population. These were men who really weren't concerned with losing all that much weight or changing their body shape or changing their body image. And they became obsessed. Within the first week, they were showing all these signs and symptoms of a person who's on a regular chronic diet, which is obsessed about food, which is can't think about anything else, which is worried about the next meal and, oh my gosh, am I going to gain weight? And how am I going to say no to the donut? What if I go to work and there's a candy? What if someone offers me a drink at the party? And on it goes. The worries around this. So get off the dieting train. As I always say, diets don't work. Love does. First things first, listening to this podcast. Welcome for being here, listening to perhaps a new way of being, thinking, feeling that you didn't know was actually something that was going to help you, right? You never know what's going to help you. So I really want you to consider when it comes to what to eat, this very scary conversation almost sometimes, because it's that paradox of choice. It's all the diets in the world out there, plus, oh my gosh, what do I do? What if I have this sensitivity? Everyone has a gluten sensitivity, or I'm probably sensitive to dairy because I always get gas, or I don't know, because I'm so confused because everything makes me feel bloated and gassy, which is common, especially if there's a lot of stress in the mix, which I don't know many people who aren't stressed in this mix of life and parenting, momming, and being everything to everyone that we can tend to do and be. Consider, what do you want your ideal day to look like when it comes to food? Because oftentimes we restrict ourselves so much. We say we can't have this or we shouldn't have that. And at the end of the day, we could have pretty much anything, anytime, but we just can't have it all at one time. Right? And in my book, The Love FitMama Way, which is available on Amazon, and you can find that on my website, the reading list in the back of that book is extensive. And one of the books I refer to is actually by a woman named Bethany Frankel. If you've heard of this lady, she's sometimes a little bit of a hot mess on TV. She's a Beverly Hills housewife originally and has a whole kind of crazy story. Anyway, she's the maker of Skinny Girl Margaritas, which she then sold to one of the major alcohol companies. And anyways, she is a self-made millionaire, really. And she's quite an inspiring lady, but she's also a little bit of a hot mess in many ways. But one of the things that she does do well, and I really like in her book, is she talks about the idea that you can't have everything all at once, but you can have everything. Why would you need to restrict yourself and not have pancakes if you really love them, not have pizza if you really love it, not have ice cream and burgers and fries and whatever you want anytime? You can. But if you have it all the time, you, A, won't feel very good if you really listen to your body. You, B, won't get excited for it anymore. And when you do go out, or you go to your favorite burger restaurant, or you go to your favorite place with fries, you don't appreciate it the same way, because it's like, yeah, I can have this every day of the week. And I do, right? If you tell yourself, I can have this every day of the week, but I'm gonna wait. Right? I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till that time when my friend comes into town and I'm going to take her to this favorite restaurant. Or I'm going to wait until that time when I go to fly there and I go to that place where I love the wine, or blah, 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 right? Saving up for it allows you this anticipation, right? Imagine sex. And I've talked about this in previous podcasts, and I'm going to talk about it again. So much of the heightened fun of sex is actually the anticipation of it. When you're sending messages to your man saying, hey, I can't wait till you come home tonight. Or, hey, I'm excited to put the girls to bed and play in the sheets with you. Hey, I'm blah, 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 right? Texting, sexting, talking in advance of things that you want to do to each other, and heightens the awareness and the anticipation of how fabulous the feeling is going to be. The same thing happens with food. And when people ask me about what I eat everything. I really do eat everything. And I was a vegetarian for about 10 years. No, not even 10 years, actually. I shouldn't say that. I was 2009, the end of 2009 until 2017, so 8 years. So for the better part of 10 years anyway, I was a vegetarian, and I was restricting in many, many ways. And I have a pretty long history of dieting, if you will, in a way that has always felt like it's just super healthy. But at the end of the day, I can definitely say there was obsessing over food. There was obsessing over calories. There were times where I actually looked back when I traveled around the world going, I would have never done that 5 years before, because I was much more disciplined, aware around obsessiveness, whether I was or wasn't going to eat that, whether foods were available to me that were going to suffice in my quote unquote diet. And while I was never obsessively restrictive and had an actual eating disorder, there was a lot of times where I was really not listening to my body. And I remember one year, 2007 it was, and I was actually I think it was 2006 that I ended up training for no, 2005, I did a half marathon. That was my first marathon, but I did not diet. I actually ended up overeating because I was so nervous about running out of fuel and energy, like 10 miles away from any food, like I was going to die or something. So I used to overeat. And when I knew I was going to wake up for a long run, I would be pounding any food that would come into my sight. So I would get really, really worked up about it. And so after I did a half marathon in 2005, I wasn't really obsessed with food, but then I started working at the gym. In 2006, I got a job, an opportunity to be the general manager of a massive gym in Windsor. So it was Good Life Fitness at the Devonshire Mall, where I got to be the GM for almost 2 years at that time. And it was about maybe it was about a year in that, yeah, it was 2007 when I trained for and did a fitness competition, specifically a fitness modeling competition, which I don't know what prompted me to do this. It was definitely insecurities of being a 25-year-old in the gym industry. I was with my boyfriend at the time, now my husband, living with him, working at the gym, really just was figuring stuff out in terms of, was I going to marry this guy or was I going to go apart from him, be a different person? Who knew where my life was directed? Did I want to be in the gym industry forever? And there was definitely a lot of growth happening when I was about 25 years old. But one of the things was me deciding that I wanted to be a fitness model, and I figured I could, and I was convinced somehow from my trainer that this was a good idea. And so I decided to do it. So I trained for this, and my husband/boyfriend at the time was very encouraging, of course. And he was just, of course, I'll support you in whatever you do. But I remember having to do workouts and cardio, and I was really low in fuel. I don't know how many calories I was eating, but I remember just eating a lot of broccoli, a lot of chicken breast, a lot of, I don't know, I just remember making in the gym kitchen egg whites and white fish and greens, and I still eat all these things to this day. But there was definitely that almost 10-year period where I didn't eat any fish. I didn't eat any chicken because I just had enough. And I had just said, like, this is not for me. And my body just didn't feel good. And it wasn't the chicken. It wasn't the fish. It really wasn't anything. It was just that I wasn't eating enough and I wasn't eating enough variety. I was pushing my body so hard and not listening to it. I was in the no pain, no gain mindset. And, at the end of the day, I never even thought about the idea of no pain, all gain, right? I never thought about the fact that I could listen to my body. And if I wanted a bun with my burger, I could have it. And I wouldn't have to feel guilty, or I wouldn't have to feel like I was going to gain weight or be unattractive or be useless as a trainer or a manager of a gym or whatever. I had so many mixed messages going on in my own head that it really messed with me. And I talk about this openly now with clients. And yes, now here goes over 10 years later, 2018, and I do not even talk about food or meal plans with my clients. I make sure that they're mindful and they're open about what they're eating or not eating, or what are they focusing on, because it's a conversation that we often need to have, mostly because it is on our mind as women. But what approach do we have with it? It is definitely the intuitive eating, non-diet approach, where you are truly connecting with your gut, like I am. And this is what I teach people. I teach people what I do. And there were so many times where I didn't do it, and I was on a cleanse or I was on some kind of fasting regimen that I thought I needed to do because that was the only way I would maintain my weight. And at the end of the day, when I hurt my back 4 years ago, and really for the better part of 3 years, I wasn't able to do much physically active the way I was. I was doing 3-4 workouts a day, plus eating what I'd say super clean, which I don't enjoy that terminology anymore, but I was eating healthy. I was not eating a lot of excess junk food or sugar or random processed foods, if you will. And I pretty much weighed the same then as I do now, 4 years later, intuitively eating, not punishing myself and having to work out because I ate something. Yeah, my body looks a little bit differently in terms of the tone I have, maybe. But at the end of the day, it isn't a whole lot different. And I feel so much better knowing I listen to my body and I'm not obsessing about the food that goes in my mouth. Because I've been eating healthy, taking care of myself, honoring my body for the better part of my life. And there was that good 10-year period where I didn't honor myself from 2007 to 2017. And then something woke up within me. And I don't know really what it was looking back. It was about a year and a half ago. I remember it was May of 2017. I just wrote my book and I was just editing it. And I went through this really humongous shift that was almost just a deep release for me. I mean, birthing a book, it really is like birthing a baby in some ways. I mean, you have to really work a lot harder for the book because baby kind of just grows itself in there, which is kind of nice. But for the book, it's like you're putting your heart and soul on the line. This was all the research I had done over the last 10 years. Plus now my experience as a trainer, my reputation as a trainer, my experience as a mom, my experience with my births and my pregnancies, being open about all that stuff, what I did, what I didn't do, what I thought, what I didn't think of until too late. And it was very, very vulnerable for me to do this. And it just cracked me open in a way that it felt so naked and exposed that it made me question everything. And it no longer felt authentic to me to restrict any of the food that I was eating or the food that I was feeding my kids, the food that my husband was eating. You know, he was pretty much a vegetarian within about 3 weeks or 2 weeks of me being a vegetarian. And that was before we had kids. And then we had our kids and they were vegetarian for the first 4 and 6 years of their life. So approximately 5. And it was a really interesting transition. And I really am open about it now. I talk a lot about my experience, but I also just talk a lot about being aware and mindful because so many of the reasons why I was into vegetarianism was the environment, was feeling like there was a lot of toxins in the foods that we were eating and commercially farmed foods. And at the end of the day, it's really about each moment to moment. And while I never touted vegetarianism or talked about being vegan or this or that with my clients or encouraged them in any way, one way or the other, I always talked about being aware that each and every meal, you have an opportunity to eat whatever you want. You can choose a meat meal or you can choose a non-meat meal. You can choose a vegan meal, you can choose to have dairy. You can choose to drink this on any day of the week or not to. And at the end of the day, every moment, you have a choice. So I encourage you to not label yourself. And that's another one of my huge concepts is the non-labeling. Not labeling, even if you are following a paleo lifestyle, to label yourself and stand by this and talk about it all the time with everybody you're talking to, tell them why what they're eating is just probably not going to fit with being long-term healthy and blah, blah, blah. It really takes away from it. And interestingly as that is, the less I talk about food and food choices in public or with people, family, friends, at parties, whatever, I feel much better about it because most people are confused about what to eat. And there's a really great book out there by Dr. Mark Hyman called What the Heck Do I Eat? Because literally people are asking this question day and night. And it is a really good book to read because he has all the science in there of a quote unquote healthy diet. A quick break here from our podcast today to talk about one of our show sponsors, my program, The 21 Days to Love Your Body. I talk about this on some of the FitMama podcast episodes, but this is truly where the work into your workout begins. This 21-day program allows you to go through a new type of goal setting, creating and signing a contract that feels good to you, that you can live by, something realistic. This allows you to break down over 3 weeks, identifying your motivations, your barriers, understanding how to listen to your body, accept where you're at, embrace your life, take responsibility for where you're at. This calls you to a higher place through visualization and planning, forming new beliefs and tapping into the power of gratitude and love. This allows you to nurture yourself and enjoy the process by celebrating you, lowering your stress, understanding your willpower, catching up with your support system that starts from within. Understanding the underneath, what is going on in terms of what is affecting the behaviors you engage in, all starts with this program. I encourage this, and this has helped so many fit mamas around the world. I know the mindfulness and the habits you're going to form over these 3 weeks, filling in this fillable PDF journal that you can print out and fill out, or fill it out right on your computer. This is the missing link. I know you'll love it, and I know you're going to get a lot from it. Have a great day and enjoy. You can find it on lovefitmama.com or jenoliver.com. But you know, my opinion on the word healthy and what healthy is for every single one of us is different. And it's so largely dependent on our emotions. Just like when I was training for this competition where they were going to take pictures of me, and I had parade around in a bikini with clear heels on stage, and I was mortified beyond belief. And the whole time I was doing it, I was like, why did I think this was a good idea? My boyfriend at the time was there. I remember my family being there. I had a little sister, still have a little sister. She's 2.5 years younger than me. And I was so embarrassed that I was being an example doing this. And it's not to say that people who do this and love doing these fitness competitions, modeling competitions, are any less. It's no judgment. It just was not for me. And I remember looking back, and my boyfriend, now husband, and his friend, now our friend still, was there to watch this. And I remember being so embarrassed that he was in the audience, that my parents were there, that I was standing up there naked, parading around because I worked out enough and hadn't eaten much, and I somehow thought I was deserving of being on stage and winning some kind of award, which maybe I was deserving, and I probably did deserve to win or tromp around or whatever, but I felt like a total idiot. And I was like, why did I do this? And it wasn't worth it. And I felt strong. I felt strong in the gym when I worked out, but I felt weak at the same time. And I felt absolutely disconnected with who I was on the inside because I denied myself so much. And the problem with this diet cycle that so many of us women have gone on, and so many women go on, 61 diets before the age of 45. That number is staggering. Staggering. And the thing about that is that this diet cycle, it doesn't only have stuff to do with the food. It has stuff to do with your mental and emotional health. Every time you get yourself worked up to go on a diet on a Monday, and every time you binge on a Sunday to say, I'm not going to have this forever because I'm going to go on this diet, so I'm never going to have ice cream again. I better eat all the ice cream in the house. I better eat all the cookies. I better go out and party or do this or that because I'm never going to do it again. It sets up a very mixed message, let's say, in your mind, in your body, in your heart, saying, I'm never going to do this, even though ice cream brings you happiness. Going out for drinks with your girlfriends is enjoyable. Having pizza night at home with your kids is fun. And it's okay that it is. It doesn't need to come with guilt and emotional upheaval, because every night isn't pizza night, because every night isn't girls' night binge drinking, because every night isn't ice cream night. And it's only when you set yourself up for every night is when the issues lie. Like Bethany Frankel says, you can have it all. You just can't have it all at once. So if you're having a waffle for breakfast, having a salad with whatever you want, soup or something that makes you feel really light and energetic and nourished and warm and cozy and yummy, and then having something else for dinner that makes you feel cozy and loving again, and whatever that is, listening to your body. Because at the end of the day, you can have all your favorite meals throughout a week, and you can have just enough so you enjoy them, and you can have just enough so you don't overstuff yourself, because you can have it again next week, or you can have it again at the end of the week, or you can have it again tomorrow for leftovers. Don't restrict yourself. Don't deny yourself, but allow yourself to get hungry, Fit Mama, in between the eating times. And one of the things that I've talked to a lot of women recently that's helped with this is intermittent fasting and the ketogenic diet. And again, that word diet. And it is interesting because I'm not supporting or suggesting either of these things to you, but I'm going to tell you what both of them provide that you can create without going on the diet. Okay, so this number one thing, intermittent fasting, essentially what that is you having a food or feeding window. So maybe you only eat between the hours of noon and 8 p.m. This is a common thing for intermittent fasters, is to have a window of 8 hours, 6 hours, or 5 hours, or whatever, that they eat, and then the other hours they don't eat. They're fasting. And why this provides a lot of ease for many women and men is because they know they can eat whatever they want during that window, and then the rest of the time they aren't thinking about food. They've kind of shut off their mind to food. This is helpful because oftentimes we're consumed by food all the time, and we have food choices coming at us all the time. But if we just say no during all these different hours, it's easier, right? It makes it easy to say no. We're at a party and it's past 9 o'clock. We're going, no, thanks. And it doesn't have to be some big discussion, some big justification, some big explanation to the whole room about what intermittent fasting is. None. All it is no, done. You know confidently how to say no. And because you've set a bit of a guideline, that helps. So you can do this. You can do this anytime. You can do this if you're not intermittent fasting. You can tell yourself you're intermittent fasting and never actually do it. But you can have boundaries with yourself where you learn confidently to say no. Same thing with the ketogenic diet. The ketogenic diet is basically saying no to any carbohydrates, which is very intense for many people, which doesn't work for many people, which backfires in most people. But there are a select few for whom this is just the right kind of thing because their body doesn't react well to sugar. They have all these other great meals that they love. They feel never deprived, and they feel happy with what they eat. So that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, what really happens with that is that they're not having blood sugar fluctuations and highs and lows and crashes and cravings all the time, which is what's common in the dieting culture or us regularly eating and snacking all the time, because that creates that blood sugar highs and lows. So eating more wholesome foods in general that don't give you highs and lows is going to help. Confidently saying no when you really don't want anything is also helpful. Listening to your body, getting hungry, and using what I call delaying gratification. And if you search delaying gratification, or you've read my book, or you followed FitMama or anything, you will understand this idea of delaying gratification is just holding off, right? It's saying no now and saying, I can have it later. I will have it later. I just don't want it now, right? Yeah, okay, I could have a glass of wine right now, but I'm not going to have one. I'm going to put it off till dinner, or until the next week when I have a party, or until next year when I go to Christmas dinner at my parents' or whatever. You can choose until when you want to put it off till. And this delaying gratification allows you to A, have that anticipation I talked about, but B, have that heightened awareness of how much you really want it, right? And I did a presentation last week with my financial advisor, Alin. She's an incredibly brilliant woman. And she and I, we talked at the kick. It was a kick in the assets. It was awesome. So at the talk, we talked specifically about this idea of needs versus wants, right? And when it comes to money or buying things, we go, do I need that or do I want that? And then we can decide whether we're going to put our money towards something, if we want it or need it or both or whatever. Same thing goes for food. And when I stopped saying I'm restricting this food group, that food group, I'm vilifying that food group, I'm not going to eat that, or I can't do that. The minute I stopped doing that and I liberated myself, it gave me the opportunity every day to choose, do I want that or do I not? Do I want candy or do I not? It's not, oh, I only eat clean candy. It's not, I never eat candy, or else I'm probably going to want to binge at the Bulk Barn every night. So how can I set myself up that I can have candy every day? It can be in my cupboard, and if I go to it and want it, cool. If I don't, I don't. It's a process, Fit Mama, but it is possible. And the first step is to restrict all restrictions. I know. Just stop saying, I won't have this forevermore. I'm never going to eat this again. I've got to start this and not do this, that, or the other, because that will set you up for failure and obsession and freakazoidness. So calmly and confidently head into this week knowing that you can have anything, anytime. But if you delay it, if you let yourself be hungry, then get really excited for what it is you're going to eat and savor each bite. A little bit just may be enough, and you'll be excited for the next time you get to have it again with no restriction. It does work. If you need me to talk you through a little bit of calming, relaxation, breathing, and reconnecting with your body, download in the show notes for today's episode my Listen Within MP3, where you can have me talking just like this, calmly into your ear, and allowing you to reconnect and listen within to your body. So go get that download now in the show notes and begin allowing yourself to reconnect with the love within you so you are not on diet after diet, because there is no restrictions in the Fit Mama lifestyle. Have a great day. Have a great week, Mama. Namaste.